Hello, folks. Welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show, brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. My name is Dustin Jones. I am on faculty with ICE, teaching in the older adult division with modern management of the older adult, essential foundations, advanced concepts. Those two are online offerings, and then the live 2-day course. We are starting off 2020 with a bang in Moline, Illinois, in the Quad Cities area. Alan is going to be picking Christina and I up Friday evening and driving on over to hang with the Rock Valley Physical Therapy crew. Sold out course. Over 40 folks are going to be in that room for 2 solid days of learning how we can better serve older adults, and I am freaking pumped for that. But today's content, let's talk about Beyond the Berg, assessing balance. I think a lot of you all listening or watching can really sympathize with me in the sense of a balance assessment can be rather challenging, especially in older adults. Typically, what I've seen clinically and observed in different settings that I've been is that we may take someone through a general functional measure that we remember from school, whether it's the Berg, whether it's a Tenetti, whether it's maybe even standing on a single leg, of taking someone through that and observing their performance. And our intervention will likely be something along the lines of what we tested. And I think that's not the worst thing in the world. At least we're testing some capacity of balance. However, in most balance assessments, we are leaving so much on the table that we are assuming balance, someone's balance capacity is this very, very simple equation that if we find this impairment on this particular test and we just have them do it more and more and more, that they're going to get better. Sometimes it works, a lot of times it doesn't. We have to acknowledge the complexity of the skill of maintaining your balance, of having your center of gravity over your base of support. That is rather complex, and so we want to give it some respect, but also be able to tease it out and to identify some of the factors that are contributing to someone's impairment in their performance. So that's why this is called Beyond the Berg. We have to get beyond some of these functional measures and really tease out some of these other factors that we know influence people's capacity, especially with older adults. With older adults, the assessing balance is much more complex typically than in younger individual because there are a lot of age-related changes that we need to identify as contributing factors to someone's performance going down. So Beyond the Berg, assessing balance. What we're going to try and do, or what I'm going to try and do, is kind of have a series of break down some of the different tests that we want to have in our toolbox to be able to leverage and use with older adults to perform a more thorough balance assessment. So let's just start with a general review of what it takes to maintain your center of gravity over your base of support, because it's not that easy. It's not that simple of an activity. So the way I like to break it down, and the way I've seen it taught to several other clinicians as well, is that we want to think about, we have inputs into our system, into our central nervous system, where we process that information and then it results in an output. So those inputs for balance are your vision. So the visual system is giving helpful information. The somatosensory system is as well, with those receptors and the muscles and the joints and the tendons that are giving that information of where that body segment is in space, and also movement in space relative to another body part. That is giving information. Also the vestibular system, that angular and linear acceleration, that internal compass that we have. All of those things are pushing information into our cortex, our thalamus, basal ganglia, vestibular nucleus, cerebellum, in that central nervous system to be processed. That is processed, and then we generate an output via our neuromuscular system, and we are going to hopefully maintain our balance. And we have several different strategies that we leverage, like the ankle strategy, like the hip strategy, or the stepping strategy if we need to use it, the reaching strategy, or the suspensory strategy. That is how it works. Inputs come in, your vision, somatosensory system, vestibular information comes in, central processing, we put it all together, and then we say, okay, this is what needs to happen, and we have some type of writing response or reaction. An ankle, hip, stepping, reaching, or suspensory strategy is typically what we see. Based on different scenarios, we'll see something different. I'll dive more into especially the output, some of those posture writing responses. We'll speak to that, and we'll also speak to the processing piece as well and how that can be impacted with age or certain diseases. But today I want to talk about the inputs, in particular the visual input, and how to kind of tease that out and assess that. I'm not going to talk to somatosensory and vestibular. We're going to save that for another episode because that's a lot of information. But today I do want to talk about assessing vision. So beyond the Berg, assessing balance, today we're going to be talking about vision. So there's a few things that you want to have on your radar that are contributing factors to someone's balance performance, but also contribute to someone's falls risk, which, as we know, if you listen to probably at least 5 to 6 times a month, we're talking about falls risk on the Jerry on Ice segment of PT on Ice. But vision is a big piece. And so some of these things that you want to look at, and we're going to go through these, are visual acuity, contrast sensitivity, depth perception, and then visual field restrictions, and some things, some action steps based on what you find. So first, visual acuity. Very simple. This is a Snellen chart that hopefully you all are getting every year. Hopefully you're using that with some of your patients, where we're assessing the sharpness of our vision. Now, I know some of us it can be difficult to do that, especially in the home health setting, to test visual acuity. But man, technology is a beautiful thing. Luckily, we have apps on our phones or tablets that we are able to pull up a Snellen chart, for example, and have a standardized, distance from the screen, and have folks read it and be able to have a rough guesstimate of their visual acuity. You can identify a pretty glaring deficit even with something like a tablet. Now, what do you do with that? You refer. You refer to, hopefully your patient already has an ophthalmologist or optometrist that they work with, but this is a great reason to refer. Now, that's one factor that we have identified that could contribute to someone's balance impairment. We still want to address it where we can. That's the beautiful thing in Jerry PT. This is what I love about this, is especially with falls risk and balance impairments, there's so many factors, whether they're intrinsic or extrinsic. So many factors related to somatosensory system, the visual system, the neuromuscular system, cardiovascular system as well, that can contribute to balance impairments. We can address those in some way, shape, or form. We can improve people's capacity, or we can compensate for them in some way, especially with those extrinsic factors as well, like environment is a huge one. I think about polypharmacy as well. It's something that we can impact to really move the needle forward, not just getting people stronger or improving their mobility. There's lots of things that we can do, and vision is one. So visual acuity, use an app. I'm on, this tablet is an Android tablet, and let me look at the name of the app here. Eye Test is what it's called. It was 99 cents to get the pro version. So I think that's money well spent. Okay, the next thing, after visual acuity, you want to look at contrast sensitivity. So that is the ability to detect subtle differences in shading and patterns. This is an absolutely huge one for a lot of older adults, especially that I've seen in the home health setting, in an area that may be dimly lit or dark, there's not appropriate lighting, that those transitions from especially from dark to light, and then light to dark as well, but those transition spaces where there's a big differences in the lighting or patterns can be very challenging for a lot of folks. And you'll see a lot of compensation, but you are able to assess that. And there is a way to assess that. How, you may ask? Well, on the Eye Test app, you can test contrast sensitivity. So there's standardized instructions to say, place your phone approximately 12 inches from your eyes. Have a mild natural light and no glare on the phone screen. You will see 16 groups, 3 letters, blah, blah, blah. And you basically will pick, I know y'all can't see this, and sorry for the podcast listeners, but you have lines of text, and as you go down the screen, they become more and more faint, and you're just tapping on the line that you are able to see. And let's say if I tap on this top line when the letters are still relatively dark, what does it say? It says, you seem to have low contrast sensitivity. You should immediately see your eye doctor. A very easy way to establish if someone needs a referral. So contrast sensitivity is a very, very big factor for many older adults, and this is a very easy way to assess it. So Eye Test app on Android, not sure for you Apple folks. Next is depth perception. The easiest way to do this is to take 2 fingers and put it right in front of your patients, right around eye level, and you have your fingers far apart. All right, and so what you're doing is you're bringing your rear finger up towards the finger that's a little bit in front, and you tell the patient to say stop whenever those fingers appear to be even or equal. Now, if there is more than a 3-inch gap between those fingers, all right, when they say stop, then they have a depth perception issue that you need to refer to. So very simple, 2 fingers, bringing them closer and closer, tell them to stop whenever they seem like they are parallel. And if that is more than 3 inches of a gap, when they perceive that it's parallel or equal, then that is when you need to refer. All right, so visual acuity, contrast sensitivity, easy to test with an app, depth perception, easy to test with 2 fingers, and then visual field restrictions. That's where you are, I like to stand behind people while they're sitting and kind of bring my fingers around and just tell them yes when they're able to see my fingertip. I do one at a time, and then I'll make sure to know where that was and see if there's a big difference, or see if there is a rather large impairment in their visual fields. If someone has macular degeneration, you may see some central visual loss, but you may see some lateral visual field restrictions as well. Now, we may not be able to get that visual field back, obviously, with a lot of folks. However, this is where we can definitely learn to help them compensate by putting them in different situations and really having them leverage head movements to be able to scan their surroundings in a more efficient manner, in a more confident manner, as they're in a static position or a more dynamic movement, performing different activities, so you can actually train that. I've had, especially in the home health setting, if I've identified an issue with visual field restrictions, really taught people to have their head on a swivel, to be able to scan their environment, and we would scan their environment in progressively complex situations or even stances to really train their ability to move their head on a swivel, to scan their environment. So those are the big things with vision. All right, visual acuity, contrast sensitivity, depth perception, visual field restrictions. I know many of you all may listen to this or watch this and say, whatever, I don't have time to assess this. Okay, that's fine. However, if you have an older adult walking into your clinic and they have a balance impairment or they've had a recent fall, please at least ask about their vision, but I would actually test it, because this is a big opportunity to get, hopefully have an intervention or a referral to an optometrist or ophthalmologist that can have an intervention that can significantly improve people's capacity. This is very, very low-hanging fruit for a lot of people. So that's what I want you all to think about. Balance is very complex. We need to go beyond the Berg or beyond the Tenetti or beyond the single leg stand, whatever tests that you typically do, and really assess some of these other parts that contribute to someone's balance capacity, because we have those inputs, the visual system, the somatosensory system, the vestibular system. They get centrally processed in that central nervous system, and then we have these outputs via the neuromuscular system. We need to tease these out and assess each one to see what is contributing to someone's performance and what can we do to potentially improve upon their performance or even compensate for a deficit. And so today, the big ones, I'm going to repeat this again: vision, visual acuity, contrast sensitivity, depth perception with your 2 fingers, and then visual field restrictions. Give that a go. Let me know what you think. I'm going to be continuing to talk about this. Next time, we're going to talk about how to assess the input portion of the somatosensory system to be able to see if that is functioning properly, to give those good inputs into the central nervous system. Then we'll talk about the vestibular system as well, and then we'll get to assessing more of the output piece. So that's all I got for y'all. I'm excited to get to Moline, Illinois with the Rock Valley Physical Therapy crew with Alan. Christina's going to be there. Obviously, Gmo is going to be there. My buddy Jeff Musgrave is coming. Kelly out of Chicago. It's going to be an awesome crew. If you would like to come to one of these live courses, it is quite the experience. We're going to be all across the country in 2020. We've got a jam-packed year. Go to ptonice.com and go to live courses, and you can check that out as well as our online offerings. I do need to mention, though, it is Wednesday, and you likely, if you are a wise individual, have received an email from Jeff Moore at this point called Hump Day Hustling. These are the 5 most pertinent links, whether it's a social media post, infographic, article, that we, the faculty, have found helpful in our work. We send that over to Jeff. He crafts that email, no fluff, just the good, sends it over at 8:30 every Wednesday. If you're not on that, you're missing out. It's completely free, ptonice.com. Go to the bottom of the page and you'll be able to sign up. Otherwise, that's all I got. Check some vision, y'all, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.